I'd like to call to order this Board of Directors meeting of the Waste Reduction District of Monroe County, Thursday, March 14th, 2024. We will begin with a roll call of directors. So let's see, we have Dan Swafford.
Here.
Lee Jones.
Here.
And Penny Givens.
Here.
And Jeff McKim here, and Isabel Piedmont Smith.
Here.
And let's see, do we have anybody on Teams? Nope. And I believe that Julie Thomas is going to be.
She indicated she would be running a little late.
Okay, so right now we're all in person. So, all right, let's move on to the executive committee meeting minutes, January 29th, 2024. Looks like this is just an informational item. Anything you want to call attention to?
No, I guess just to reference, you would note in, I guess, the past couple of the minutes for the executive committee meeting, we've been discussing what is agenda item 5 on today's meeting.
Okay, sounds good. Any questions or comments on the executive committee meeting minutes? Seeing none. Okay, we'll move on to the approval board of directors meeting minutes from February 8th, 2024, and that is a voting item. So anything you want to call to our attention?
Want a motion?
Please go ahead.
I move that we accept the Board of Directors minutes from Thursday, February the 8th, 2024.
We have a motion.
Second.
We have a motion, a second. Any comments or questions from the left? From the right? Okay. We'll do a voice vote. All in favor of approving minutes, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Okay, we move on to controller's report, and we will begin with the cash flows. Ms. Martin.
The cash flow summary is on page 7 of your packet, and the operating balance as of February 29th was $3,887,136.70. The closure bond debt balance was $10,277.69. Capital account was $45,743.15. And the landfill post-closure account was at $762,079.68 as of February 29th. The individual cash flow statements for each of these are on pages 8 to 13 of your packet. And the operating fund graph is on.
I'm sorry.
Just a second. May I ask a question about the cash flows before you start on to the individual ones? You've got 4 columns there. It starts with beginning balance of February 29th, 2024, and ends balance year to date as of February 29th, 2024. Is that the correct beginning balance? And is that the correct date for the beginning balance?
No, I'm sorry. That should be January.
Thank you. Sorry to interrupt
We'll
you.
correct it.
Thank you.
The individual cash flow statements for each of those are on pages 8 to 13 of your packet, and the operating fund graph is on page 10. Questions on the account balances?
Just give me 1 second. Are there any questions from the right? Questions from the left? Okay, no, I don't have any questions.
On page 14 of the packet, you have a total for the payroll and claims for approval with the backup for those numbers, and that's on pages 15 to 31. The backup is page 14 is the totals. Those are for claims processed for the weeks of February 19th and March the 4th. We did not have any claims this week that were paid. The total of all payroll and claims that we are recommending for approval, as shown on that page 14, is $213,316.37. Questions on the claims?
Questions from the left? Yes, please.
Yeah, I have a couple of questions. First of all, and this is a question actually not particular to claims, but I just happened to notice it here. The claim sheets with the details, they seem to be in image files, so that when I try to highlight, it doesn't recognize it as text. And that concerns me because that means this is not accessible for people who are visually impaired. I think that's what it means when it's not recognized as text, so a text reader wouldn't be able to do anything with it. Is there a way we could try to make all our documents and all of our packets accessible?
I believe that there is. The PDF writer that we use to put that together does have an OCF feature that should do that.
I would say usually it is, it seems.
So I'm not sure. We can just, for future packets, we can just make sure that we run that OCF feature before it's published.
Okay, yeah, please do. Okay, and then more particularly to the claims, I saw that there was still a payment to Connie Hudson. Is she still providing assistance in the office, or is that finished now?
It is done now, but she did come in the end of December, beginning of January to help with some of the year-end stuff to make sure that we were getting done what needed to be done and submitted within the deadlines established by the state.
Sure, that makes sense. I just didn't know if that would be continuing or...
At this point, no, she is open if we need assistance to come back, but at this point, Ms. Martin and I don't see a need for that. That could change, though.
Okay, great. It's nice to have her as a possible assistant in busy times. I think I had one other line. Let me just see. So on there's a payment to Globe Life on the packet, page 23, claims docket, line 7. And it's not very much money. It's only $209. So I'm just curious, what was that for?
That's it's a supplemental insurance benefit that we provide to the employees that is fully employee funded by payroll deduction.
Okay, so not very many have chosen it, I guess.
We
if
only,
it's only
I think
$209.
we only have 4 or 5 employees that are have elected any of those coverages.
I'm sorry, there's another one.
Oh, please.
Then page 30 of our packet, there's another payment for Station 43 design for signage. And I just wondered, because I saw another vendor line that was for a different vendor. So I'm not sure, is this $16,000, is that for both creating the signs and designing the signs?
Designing and producing, yes.
Producing.
Yes.
Okay.
And Station 43 and another company called Fast Signs are the 2 vendors we're using for all the new signage that's going up at all the facilities.
Okay, so this particular one, line 15 on page 30, that's about $379 per sign for the bins.
And Mr. Long can probably provide some clarification on that, but I believe that was for all of the individual signs that are on stands at all the facilities that indicate here's the material that goes into the specific bins. And
So there's more hardware than just the sign.
It's a number of signs as well as a rolling stand so that those can be moved when boxes need to be moved or relocated.
Okay, and we didn't have rolling stands from the previous signs that we could reuse? Okay.
No.
Gotcha.
And I've seen those now. I was down at the
good.
solid waste district earlier, and they look nice.
Thank you.
Yeah, you don't happen to have a picture of any of them, but yeah, we should next time we should bring a picture and
We can do
show
that.
the public, show the
I
other
need to get
board
down there
members.
myself. Mr. Long, did you have anything to add?
Sorry, what was that?
Oh, did you have anything to add in response to my question?
No, Tom covered it all really good. We do have all the new signs I'm going to talk about at all the sites now. So as you visit Bethel Lane or Ellettsville, they are all passed out. We've done, I think it was 39 signs total with bases.
Well, and I like too the new signs that are going up at all the locations that indicate the month where you can drop off the bulky items, and to have that displayed at the location, I think is really beneficial.
Yeah, we're getting a lot of good feedback from customers. Everybody's loving all the new signage, and it's more clearly to each customer on how to do stuff and
Yep.
what we take.
Thank
No,
you.
I think it's great so far. Yeah. All right. Any other questions or comments on the payroll and claims? Okay, I'll entertain a motion for approval.
I move approval of payroll and claims as presented in our meeting packet.
We have a motion.
I'll second with the proviso that the one date get adjusted.
Yeah, that was on the
Those
cash.
cash flows.
yeah.
but yeah. Okay. Great.
Mr. McKim, just because it is the document that's signed, just for clarification, on page 14 of the packet, you'll note in the second lump of claims that are provided, the last line says claims submitted for approval on 2/7/24. And apologize, that was not updated on the form. The sheet I have here for signature does indicate that those were claims approved by the board chair designee last week.
Okay. All right. So with that, do you accept that part of your motion instead?
Yes.
Okay. Great. Thank you. Is there any public comment? Okay. Seeing none, we'll do a voice vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. All right. We will move on to waste recycling materials management update.
Yeah, as I indicated earlier, this is something that the executive committee has been discussing for a couple of months. Just kind of looking at now that we have a second facility in the county as an option to take materials, what do things look like under our current agreement? What might we stand to gain or lose if we chose to put these services out for bid or proposal? What we put together, I think beginning on page 33 of the packet, is some cost and tonnage data. I think the tonnage data I believe I pulled from 2023 because we had that available. I apologize. But just to look at what our current costs are and how that equates to our tonnages and hauling volumes, what it would look like if those costs changed for hauling and disposal in particular. In the second table on page 33 is a potential rebate. As you might note, we are currently under the existing contract paying about $27.93 a ton processing fees for that recyclable material. And that's based on an agreement that was entered into about 4.5 years ago. And the markets are different now. So there is some potential to get a rebate. You might note the third footnote at the bottom of the page regarding plastics. Plastics number 1 and number 2 have good value. We currently don't separate those out, and we're not going to get any rebate on commingled plastics like we currently do. But if the district did have the ability to collect 1s and 2s separate from themselves and all the other plastics, the information I got today, number 1 plastics are currently going at about 33 cents a pound. That's about $660 a ton. The number 2s are 24 cents a pound, or about $480 a ton. Now, certainly, the district's ability to do that, there's cost and logistics to set our facilities up that would have to be overcome, to be able to collect those. Space for additional compactor units being the big one. But it is something that should be considered, as we look at all this information and try to make a decision on what's best for the district moving forward. The big one obviously is hauling. Substantial cost for us to move all of our material that we collect. And I think you can see our current rate is $108.24 a ton. I think that started at $100 a ton with a 2% annual increase built into the contract. But you might, recall when we previously looked at moving our glass, and from hauling it to Indy, and we're going now taking it to the Rumpke facility. Rumpke came, who wound up getting that bid at $130 a pull. That's built into that is the value of the glass. But I think you can, gauge from that, if we did put this out, hauling costs are going to increase. How substantially, that's kind of hard to predict. Depending on how we issued the request, whether it was a bid or proposal, and, what kind of leeway we gave potential vendors to submit costs to us, just as was done with the glass. Values of materials could be built into the hauling cost and offset by lack of a rebate or, something to that effect. So it's kind of hard to predict, where that might go, but it is going to go up. I don't think there's any way around that. But at the same time, we're currently paying almost $28 a ton for, a number of materials that, we potentially could or should be getting a rebate on. So that's kind of the discussions that the executive committee and staff have been having over the past couple of months. And in referring back to the memo on page 32, I don't think that staff or the committee has really a firm stance on that we should or shouldn't, put this out for bid or proposal at this time, but thought it was worth at least working with legal to prepare those documents. And perhaps bring those back to the board in a month or two to, hey, here's what a bid or a proposal request might look like, and let the board review that and, maybe make a decision on what direction they think the district should go.
Good summary. Yes, please.
Do we have any sense, you've got it listed here that over 290 tons of plastics was collected in 2023. Do we have any sense of how that might break down between 1, 2, and all the other numbers? We have somebody that might be an expert here in the audience that could help us.
Mr. Goins from the Rumpke Resource Recovery Facility is here. Would invite him to offer any insight that he might have. Some of the research that I've done on that, it's hard. It would be hard to put a good figure to that. PET, which is your number one plastic, that does seem to be the majority of the plastic that's out there in the secondary market. So, maybe upwards of 40% of what we're collecting, could be PET, the number one plastic.
But that's over 100 tons a year, sorry.
That's true, but of course, the value we get out of that, we would have to, net out the cost of new compactors, for example.
Right. Yeah, we'd have to find the space. We got to, buy or lease compactors and boxes, and not that it's a huge portion of it, but obviously, it takes power to run those. So electric bills are going to go up. Those are all things to consider.
Mr. Goins?
So to your question, I really can't gauge what's in the county's containers because we don't currently haul it. We'd be more than happy to have a representative come out and do a waste audit. That's something we do for some of our bigger customers, to kind of see what is in your material stream. But number 1 and 2 are the most common plastics, and the market is pretty good for them right now.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. So then
Thank you.
what do we do to get a waste audit, maybe?
I guess the one thing I am a little uncomfortable just because I would assume that Rumpke might be a potential proposer on the ultimate contract. I want to be careful about relying too much on information that they would provide before that's not part of a proposal.
Well,
See what I mean? Just for the matter of procurement.
Well, and whether it was Rumpke, or Republic, our current vendor, I think that if we had anybody do an audit on any of our material streams, that information would have to be made available as a part of the request.
Okay. Yeah, I just want to make sure we stay at arm's length when we're talking about procurement.
Yeah, and I think, and another thing to, to consider, these markets are very volatile. And, number one being 33 cents a pound today, next week it could be 10. It could be 50. Cardboard is another material that is consistently strong, but, those rates, I've seen them go from $70 a ton to $150 a ton. And then those swings can happen pretty fast.
So, I mean, I wouldn't think it would be that difficult to put together a financial model for separated plastics, with both the costs and any potential rebate. And you can always just, if you've got a spreadsheet, you can make that percentage be a formula. So you can say, okay, well, if it's, 50% ones and twos, then this is what comes out. If it's 75% ones and twos, this is what comes out. Because if you separate it all, you're going to have certain fixed costs. You're going to have storage and the logistics costs and another compactor.
Well, I think, I think that, even if the financial model said do it, our biggest obstacle at most of the sites is going to be space. I mean, there's I don't know that maybe Ellettsville and Dillman maybe have the space to easily put another compacting unit in. South Walnut, Bethel, and Ord Road, those are pretty tight.
Other comments? Yes.
Mr. McGlasson, I understand that the rebate amounts are going to be different every day, but what did you say was the current amount for plastics, 1 and 2?
Number one is 33 cents a pound, and number two is 24 cents a pound. That was the information I received today. Because unfortunately, we don't have a subscription to any of the websites that readily provide that information. So
no one takes polystyrene anymore. Is that pretty much right?
No, that's not necessarily true. There are recyclers out there that will take it and will recycle it. The issue is finding, I guess, a transporter or a MRF that wants to deal with it. The sorting facilities and the transporters are just because there's no weight to it, and it breaks at the sorting facility and creates a mess. But that's not to say that it can't be recycled. And there are certainly facilities out there that will take it if you can get it to them separated from everything else.
I mean, that's something to consider for the future. I don't know if that needs to muddy the waters here.
Yeah, and there's, and if we want to, invest in it, there's condensing units out there that you can get that'll melt it down and make bricks out of it. They can very easily be loaded into a truck and hauled. But those aren't cheap and they take space, and you have to be able to store that till you have a load to go.
That's definitely one of those areas where consumers need to also demand lower packaging, and less use of polystyrene. So. All right. I mean, does anybody have any direction to Mr. McGlasson beyond what he's already working towards? That is talking with legal and staff and drawing up a draft RFP.
I would like to see that waste audit done too on plastics.
All right.
Yeah, we can certainly. Do you want that just for plastics? The other material that comes to mind is the mixed paper. I don't know that the paper markets necessarily are financially conducive to as conducive as the dealing with plastic 1s and 2s, but there certainly is a difference in paper products depending on how they're sorted. So.
Well, I mean, if you're going to do one.
So I am a little concerned about the space issue. So, I mean, is it even feasible to think about separating and compacting plastic? I mean, do we have enough space for compactors? I don't know how big they are.
Like I said,
storage.
I think at Ellettsville and Dillman, you could certainly put one more compactor in. Two, I think, might work. You certainly want to avoid having to relocate any of the existing compactors. That has a cost and logistic issues for itself. Bethel and Ord are the ones that are I just don't know without expanding that facility how that would work. South Walnut, you would probably have to do some rearranging, which could get costly, but we do have space behind the building. But you got to deal with traffic flows and our trucks running around back there and equipment. But
Could the paper on South Walnut be put back inside for all the paper, and then you'd have some space for separation? Because right now it's all outside.
Well, yeah, I mean, we did, up until a few months ago, we were separating the white paper and some of the glossies and doing that in the warehouse. And then in talking with the current vendor, it just became more efficient and cost effective on our side and theirs. So we just put all the paper in what used to be the newspaper compactor out there. We could do that. We would lose the compacting ability on that, which would increase our hauling cost. But it is something that could be looked at.
I mean, that certainly makes sense. I have to say, I'm pretty skeptical about the plastic separation, just because I think that I think it'll be a challenge to get users trained to do it correctly, and it would certainly, for a long time, it would slow things down significantly at the sites until users got used to pre-sorting.
Yeah, and you are, unlike what we just did with the paper, it's a lot easier to get people to switch to just put it all in that bin rather than these three separate bins than it is to say, instead of putting it all in this bin, sort it by these three bins. There's a learning curve, definitely some education that would have to take place.
Well, I think the plastic is probably even more challenging than the paper, just because you have to look for the little symbol, and it's not always obvious where the little symbol is. Yeah, Lee.
I just would like to point out that at least for people who pre-sort, that takes up a lot of space. And people may not feel that they can actually devote all the extra space to increased sorting of everything.
Of course, we did just combine the glass colors, so we saved
Yeah,
we saved the one.
say.
We could do that. that would help.
Except for at South Walnut, combining the glass didn't save any space because we used to use split bins where half the bin was colored and half the bin was clear, and now we just taken the divider
I'm saying
out.
it's saved a space on my own shelf.
Yes. Yeah.
All right. Anything else?
I would just for the record that the current agreement that we're operating under is in the second of a maximum of 3 one-year renewal periods. So the current agreement, which obviously there would be options to negotiate with the vendor to just continue that agreement on a year-to-year basis, after those expire. But the initial agreed upon terms of that maxed out at 3 one-year renewals, which in May 1st of 2025 will be the conclusion of that. So. Considering, looking at request for bid or proposal documents, absent the ability to extend that is something that we're going to have to do within the next year anyway.
Thank you. All right. Well, if nothing else on this item, we'll move on to the CAC report.
Afternoon, board members. Joseph Winia here from the Citizens Advisory Committee. And I don't have a lot to update from the CAC itself. Our last regular meeting was not held, but we do have a couple of members on the Organics Task Force. So we've had a couple of meetings with that group since the last board meeting. And I just included some of the notes on the steps we've taken in our first 2 meetings, which are mostly organizational and some preliminary outreach efforts. But I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Any questions from the left? From the right? Thank you very much, sir.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right. Wow, we're motoring here. Julie's going to miss all the fun. Let's go on to department reports.
Yeah, not a whole lot. On the memo, on page 36 of the packet, I would just highlight House Bill 1338 that we all might be interested in, that deals with meeting decorum and allows governing bodies to establish rules and criteria for how meetings are conducted and the ability to remove disruptive attendees or participants.
We have such disruptive
Because we have such a
attendees.
raucous crowd here.
It's happened in the past.
It has happened. No,
I know that there are some other local bodies that sometimes that becomes an issue for. So, but otherwise, the legislative session is concluded. Really, the only bill, the first bill on that memo is the only one that had anything to do with solid waste districts, and it was specific to Vanderburgh County. So there was nothing this session that impacted the waste reduction district of Monroe County or districts across the state specifically, other than that bill. So we've kind of already talked about new signage, and most of it is out. I know we're still waiting for the road sign at the South Walnut facility. That's kind of a specialized routed out sign that's taken some time to get done. Would let people know Circular Indiana, it used to be the Indiana Recycling Coalition, is trying to be more active around the state. And they're scheduling an event for Bloomington, tentatively scheduled for May 14th, depending on venue availability. They're still finalizing all of that. I'm working with them to help them with that. They did a similar event in February in Allen County, and they're trying to put themselves back out there and just become I guess a voice to help promote the circular economy in Indiana and promote recycling and recycling markets. So looking forward to that. Bloomington will be hosting the Association of Solid Waste District annual conference this October. So we'll have all the districts here at the beginning of October, or most of them. That'll be exciting. And I would just highlight Ms. Pokral there, that last bullet point under general items. I think this is her 6th consecutive year being the state liaison for the North American Association of Environmental Education and the Environmental Education Association of Indiana.
Congratulations.
Nice feather in her cap, and it's particularly that they continue to put her in that position. She's obviously doing something right. So with that, happy to answer any questions.
Great. Thank you. Any questions? No. Thank you very much. I guess we can move on to Mr. Long.
Hi, everyone. So obviously, Mr. McGlasson does have on one of our new shirts you guys was unable to see last board meeting. That's the polo version that we have. I'll start with the recycling and reuse. We recently sold 3 vehicles that was declared surplus by the board. Again, that's to open up some free space because down here at South Walnut is pretty cluttered. The hazardous materials, we've been doing some tours for different groups of students here lately. We've had some college groups. We've had one high school group. They come in, we show them what's hazardous waste, electronics, and some of them has been using some of our stuff for different projects. So that's really neat to be part of. And the recycling centers, as we talked about earlier, the rural sites, we are getting new signage out. We've had good feedback. I've talked to many customers at the sites. Everybody seems to be happy that they're clearer and easier to read and people knows where to put stuff. And we've used different colors to help stand out and pictures, and I think it's a good thing. And that's what I have. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer.
Thank you. I just want to let the record, let us know for the record that Commissioner Julie Thomas is here as well. I think you missed out on all the fun. I don't think we have any.
Sorry. Sorry.
That's okay. I think we only had minutes and claims were the only votes anyway. So questions for Mr. Long?
Well, I would like to point out that our fearless leader here is wearing one of the new shirts also. And I saw Mr. Long recently down at the South Walnut Street facility and got to see it in person. So they look nice.
Thank you.
I agree. It's a nice looking shirt. All right, great. Thank you very much. I guess we can move on to Mr. Paulson.
See him, he's there.
Yep.
He's muted.
Me? Oh, Mr. Paulson, do you hear us?
He needs to unmute.
Well, I assume you're attempting to contact him.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
And that camera.
Oh, I think there you are.
oh, I got you. Okay.
We can hear
It's a
you.
new system. Yep, I'm here now. So, can you guys see me? Okay.
We cannot see you. We can hear you.
We tested all this at the office before I came down here.
It's
Everybody's
okay.
camera was
It's okay.
working.
There's always something.
He needs to be promoted to a presenter.
There he's
Oh,
on
he
it.
is?
Now-
he was a
now he
presenter,
was.
yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
Joey to save the day.
Okay.
All right, now they should be able to hear you and see you.
All right, does that work now?
yep, sure does. Nice backdrop, too.
All right, so Lee Paulson, landfill compliance director. Stuff in the report there is what we've been working on here the past month. Stuff I'll kind of highlight is I've been working with Edward from the Purdue Extension. Sometime in April, we'll get delivery of the or notification of the trees that we purchased to kind of start to reforest Shiloh Road area of the landfill, that low area. And then he is working on a grant for the tree planter right now, which could help offset some of the costs of renting a tree planter machine. Is kind of like a combine kind of thing like that. You pull behind a tractor that makes it a lot easier to plant a whole lot of trees as opposed to shoveling ground stuff. But still, that's in the works and not finalized yet. The other thing is Tom had spoken to me about the last executive meeting in regards to potential uses for area around the landfill. I've contacted several people in regards to looking at solar panels and solar energy around there, and basically just waiting for somebody to get back in touch with me. This week was spring break around this area. It's hard to tell who's here, who's not here kind of stuff, but I've got emails and phone calls out. I went out to the Flatwoods Road to that solar array out there that's managed by Hoosier Energy, and left a couple messages with people there. So hopefully somebody will get back in touch with me soon and kind of get an idea of what options are out there in regards to solar stuff. But other than that, things are kind of moving along. Weather's been nice. So we've been trying to get out on the roads more. Our Adopt a Road got a couple new groups that have Mary Beth has worked with to add to. So we're looking forward to working with some more people and hoping to get out on the side of the road and do a couple coordinated cleanups while the weather's nice. So, but other than that, we're good. If you guys have any questions, let me know.
Thank you, and thank you for following up on the solar farm issue. Let's see, any questions or comments from Mr. Paulson? Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, I think we talked about this at the last meeting, but those trees that are being planted, are those coming out of our budget, or did we get a grant for the actual trees? I know you're pursuing funds for the planting.
I paid for the trees in last year's budget because I had to order those back in like October. So those are already paid for.
Okay, but it was district funds
Yes.
that paid for those?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
What
And
is
I'm
Purdue
looking at just
Extension helping
starting
with?
the, I've got like, I don't have the sheet right here, but there's, they're all native species of Indiana. They're all water tolerant because that area over there on Shiloh Road is more wet. It's kind of in a lower land. It floods a lot, so they need to be tolerant of extra water. I worked with his name is Edward, and he works at Purdue here in the office. So he's a tree bird watching guy. So he's went through and we ordered what is it, 8,800 trees. So that should cover that Shiloh Road area pretty well and still allow us a roadway to kind of go. I still have to maintain a roadway or a path to the monitoring wells that are out there. So outside of that, we'll see how the trees go. But hoping to plant middle part of April sometime. So that's the plan right now, as long as the weather holds.
Wow, that's very exciting. 8,800 trees. That's amazing.
Yeah, that's a lot of trees. So I'm kind of curious how this will go.
So who's
I've not planted that kind of that number of trees before.
Who's going to actually do the labor of planting all those?
Danny, Mary Beth, and myself, Edward, and then he reached out to. I had the grounds evaluated by a forestry person through the state, and they have volunteers that when we get a closer estimate of time, they have volunteers that are always looking forward to do that kind of stuff. And the planter makes everything like a lot easier because it's a machine that you sit and it does all the digging and you just drop the plant in it and it rolls it over, kind of like an industrial farm machine that does massive plantings for big acres, but with little trees. So I've not seen it work, but YouTube video is kind of interesting. So we'll see how it goes. So.
And those can be rented, the planters? The equipment?
Yes. There's a couple different versions. One is it's self-propelled, and another is it pulls behind a tractor. So I've got Nate Anderson kind of on call. If we can't get the self-propelled one, then he's gonna pull us around with his tractor, kind of like kids on a cart.
That's great. Thank you so much for the updates.
Yeah.
I would just add to Edward Ullman from the Purdue Extension Services in Monroe County. Can't say enough about how helpful he's been with this project, and appreciate him and Purdue allowing him to devote time to help us do this.
That's great. Thank you. All right, thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Paulson? All right, thank you very much, sir.
I would point out too that if I know that there's still at least one choose and cut Christmas tree farm in the area, and they probably use that kind of a planter, and so perhaps there are other people to reach out to.
Okay.
Great. All right, let's move on to public comment. Are there any members of the public who would like to make comment on items not on our agenda, either in the Nat U Hill room or on Teams? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to comments from directors. We'll start from the left. Are there any comments from directors from the left? From the right? Okay, well, thank you very much all, and this meeting's adjourned.